Pompeii in 79 AD was loud. It was a trade hub where docks buzzed with ships from across the empire, and the streets echoed with the chants of merchants and the rattle of heavy carts. Then Mount Vesuvius erupted. A towering column of ash and pumice rose into the sky and began to rain down, silencing the city. For 17 centuries, the city remained lost under meters of consolidated ash. This layer acted as a physical sealant, shielding the buildings and streets from the elements, and creating an unusually intact record of a single moment in the Roman world. Early excavations focused on the grand architecture and the dramatic nature of the ruins. Historians often filled the gaps in the record with assumptions, projecting the image of a traditional, uniform Roman society onto the people found within the walls. But as modern archaeological techniques evolve, they are pulling more specific data from the site, data that often contradicts those long-held assumptions and reveals a more complex social reality. The 48-hour eruption buried the entire region under layers of pumice and superheated pyroclastic surges. The scale of the event was so massive that it reshaped the coastline and entombed every settlement within 15 miles. Traditionally, this disaster is dated to August 24th. This specific day comes from a letter written by Pliny the Younger, who witnessed the eruption from across the bay and recorded his account decades later. However, physical evidence found on site tells a different story. Excavations have uncovered residents wearing heavy woolen clothing and remains of autumn harvests like pomegranates and walnuts, items that would not be common in the heat of August. The conflict was resolved by a simple piece of charcoal graffiti left by a worker on a house wall. It includes a date corresponding to mid-October, placed there just days before the eruption. Correcting the timeline to October changes how we interpret the site. It allows researchers to re-examine the physical evidence with a more accurate context, looking for other details that the traditional narrative may have overlooked. Because the ash preserved the city street by street, it provides a look at the extreme social hierarchy of the Roman Mediterranean, from the public forum to the most restricted private spaces. Wealthy Pompeians lived in villas decorated with complex frescoes. Their diets reflected their status, with excavations of drains revealing remains of expensive delicacies like dormice and imported fish sauce. These homes were often filled with erotic and mythological artwork, acting as a constant display of the owner's culture and wealth. But the same city blocks contained evidence of the labor that supported this lifestyle. Recently, archaeologists identified a prison bakery embedded within a residential area. The bakery was a confined production area with windowless rooms and iron bars. Here, enslaved people and donkeys worked in high-density conditions, grinding grain into flour with no direct access to the outside world. By trapping these spaces together, the eruption reveals the proximity of Roman luxury to the exploitation required to sustain it, capturing a side of the economy that is rarely detailed in the literature of the time. To understand who these people were, 19th-century archaeologists began pouring liquid plaster into the hollow voids left behind by decomposed bodies. As the plaster hardened, it created casts that captured the final positions and clothing of the victims. For over a century, these figures have been the primary way we visualize the people of Pompeii. When early researchers found groups of these casts in an embrace, they frequently described them as families, assuming a biological connection based on their physical proximity in their final moments. Modern DNA analysis of the bones inside these casts has challenged those descriptions. The data shows that many of those found together were not biologically related, suggesting social structures that were more diverse than a simple nuclear family. This genetic map shows a population with deep roots in the eastern Mediterranean and North Africa. It reveals that Pompeii was a cosmopolitan hub, sustained by a massive movement of people and goods across the empire. The DNA provides evidence of a biological reality that was highly diverse, reflecting the constant influx of traders and enslaved people that fueled a port of this size. After the eruption, the Emperor Titus attempted to organize relief efforts, but the scale of the debris made the sites inaccessible. For centuries, the city was abandoned, occasionally disturbed only by looters digging tunnels through the ash. It wasn't until 1748 that formal excavations began. These efforts gradually revealed the city, street by street, uncovering the public buildings, theaters, and homes that had been sealed since the 1st century. Historical records are typically written by those with the status and literacy to leave a mark. This naturally prioritizes the perspective of the elite, while often leaving the majority of the population out of the narrative. The volcanic ash acted as a non-selective observer. It trapped elites in their villas and workers in their bakeries with the same indifference, preserving a dataset that includes every level of society. This physical record provides a raw layer of evidence that forces us to reconcile written history with the material facts on the ground. It offers a more complete, if more difficult, understanding of life in the Roman world.